What's going on, YouTube? So the Lexus NX has quickly become one of the best-selling vehicles in the entire Lexus lineup.
Which is why we enjoy living with it every time they send us one for a week, especially when it's this efficient 350h.
So after 7 days, we want to know, is this the best luxury compact hybrid SUV? Let's go ahead and find out. Like always, let's quickly get things started with a spec dump. So under the hood of the 26NX, you can find several different powertrains. We have the 350h hybrid today, which is a 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine with your electric componentry to make 239 horsepower. It's paired to an eCVT, and our combined fuel economy with all-wheel drive comes in at 39 MPG.
Now, the base price of the NX is around $46,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, this is a real-world 7-day review, so we have quite a bit to talk about when it comes to our real-world fuel economy for this efficient 350h. We'll also get things like our sound level reading, and at the end tell you if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because there's something important I need to point out about the exterior right from the start. So what's that important change that I need to talk about right from the start? Well, it's the fact that this combination we have today even exists. So this is new for 2026. You can now combine the 350h hybrid powertrain with the F-Sport handling design package. So for those of you familiar with the Lexus lineup, you know that F-Sport significantly changes the overall design and gives it a much more aggressive look. And I'm certainly glad that they have allowed this combination to exist because, as we'll talk about later on, there's a lot of special advantages to having the hybrid model in terms of fuel economy and power. Now, up here in the front, you've got that big old spindle grille finished in the full gloss black. As I was mentioning, the other models do have a distinctly different look. As far as over here with our headlights, you have two different designs here. You'll have standard projector LEDs, but since we have the optional triple beam LEDs, we've got the crystal design, which is more premium, as well as the LED turn signal indicator and our arrowhead. Plus, we also have down below our LED fog lights. And as we move to the back, you continue to see a pretty athletic design.
Yeah, it's a very sporty looking SUV. We have a spoiler up here at the top, a rear wiper, and then we have Lexus spelled out across the back. That's, of course, their new signature design theme. And the full-length LED taillights. Well, let's see if all the elements are LED. We have an LED brake light, LED reverse light, and LED amber turn signal indicator. I really like the taillight unit itself. I just wish the brake light took up a little bit more of the unit itself. We have our NX 350 branding over here. All of that's going to be blacked out. No exposed exhaust outlets, but all engines will tow 2,000 pounds.
Next up, we have our wheels where you have 18 or 20-inch alloy options. This is the 20-inch F-Sport alloy with the gloss black finish. I think it looks really nice against the red paint, and you'll also notice the F-Sport has the body color finish around the wheel arches. It also has a gloss black finish for our mirrors, but regardless of which model you get, you are going to get loaded mirrors, so that includes power folding, auto dimming on the driver's side, as well as blind spot monitoring and heating.
Now at the side, overall vehicle length is 183.5 inches, which is on the smaller side for this segment. We'll talk about how that translates to space a little bit later on. But as far as design, we have the smoked window surrounds, the black roof rails up here at the top. And let's talk safety. All of your active safety gear is standard on the Lexus NX, so that will include things like adaptive cruise control. Now, there's a lot to talk about on the inside when it comes to the red cabin, but first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then, we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the interior. First, here's our key fob. Typical Lexus key fob. You have standard smart entry on all models. There's also an available digital key system. Getting inside, just grab behind the handle, pinch it since it is a touch sensor, and that will also unfold the mirrors. Now, taking a look at the inside. You can see we've got the red on red combination, so certainly a bold color option on board with this model. And part of that's because we have the F Sport, which allows you to have options such as the full red interior, although you can also get a more conventional black option as well. Now, as far as the seats are concerned, most of the models will come with Nulux, which is a faux leather. However, you can get a real leather on the luxury version. With the F Sport version, though, you get the full Nulux. As you can see, it's got the two-tone finish. We have F Sport embroidered up here in the headrest, and you also have the more aggressive sport seats, which have thick bolsters to hold you in place. As far as the adjustments are concerned, we have 8 ways of adjustment with 2-way lumbar support. The luxury models get some additional adjustments, and then premium models and above get memory seats. Now let's go ahead and climb inside. Now let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. Over here on the door trim, we have more of the leatherette in the red color. You have a soft touch plastic through here, and then on the F Sport trims, you get this piece of aluminum that goes through there. On the upper part of the dash, all this is a soft touch plastic, no stitching details or anything like that. You do have a color match for your glove box door there, and then you have the red leatherette that runs along the console. Everything feels pretty nice and solid for a Lexus model. Now we'll fire it up with the push button start. As you can see, everything is booted up, so let's dig into some individual details, starting with our gauge cluster. So this is the 7-inch partially digital gauge cluster. This is actually standard on all the NXs, so I'm just a little surprised that even in 2026 that Lexus still has not updated this to the full digital cluster like you get on other Toyota products, such as the RAV4, for instance. But I am happy to say that the F Sport comes standard with a head-up display, which has quite a lot of information inside of it. It's actually what you engage with more often than you do the gauge cluster with the steering wheel controls. Now, as far as the steering wheel itself, it has a nice leather design here. We have the perforated leather over here on the side. It's nice and soft. It's also power tilt and telescoping, which is pretty rare for this segment, and we have steering wheel heating. Now, let's take a look at interior storage next. We've got the center console here, which opens in 2 directions, and inside we've got some donuts. We actually have 11 donuts to be exact, because we do the Car Confections donut test and see how many donuts this can hold compared to the competition. That means it does slightly miss out on passing the donut test, which will require a dozen, but it's still pretty good for the segment. In front of that, you have your 2 cup holders. You have a wireless phone charging pad. This is optional for $75. You can slide that back and reveal the rest of your storage up there in the front. It's pretty deep and felt lined. There's even a little cubby right there with a couple of USB connections. The shifter is the small electronic style. Press over and back for drive. Do the opposite for reverse. When you go into reverse, here's our available 360-degree camera system. This is a pretty pricey option if you want this, but I think the resolution is pretty good. You also have front and rear parking sensors. Press that P for park. You have your electronic parking brake with your brake hold function. Now, as we move up this area, we've got a large drive mode control knob, and then you have your volume knob for the audio system. So you can, of course, get a Mark Levinson sound system like most Lexus models can, but on today's tester, we do not have that option, so we just have the standard system. Let's hear what that sounds like. Overall sound quality of this system is decent, but considering the price point, I would definitely just go ahead and get that available Mark Levinson, because there's a pretty big difference between the quality you get from that sound system and this one. Alright, now your other big knobs in this area are your climate controls, of course. This is a dual zone automatic setup across the lineup. You just twist that right there, and it's kind of embedded in the actual screen itself. Other climate functions are inside of there. This does have Climate Concierge, which is a feature that automatically syncs the main climate control with the heated and ventilated seats, as well as the heated steering wheel. Speaking of, heated seats are standard on every NX for 2026. The ventilated seats are an additional cost option on most trims. Next up, let's get into the actual infotainment screen itself. As you can see, we've got a pretty large display. It's about 14 inches in size. This is the upgraded unit. So I do want to point that out. Standard on this model is a 9.8-inch display instead, and that will kind of have its own separated climate controls. This integrates it all together. We have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And as far as the performance of this system, overall this week we haven't had any problems with connections or different types of system things. I'll go ahead and show you what the actual Lexus interface looks like. It's very simple. It is shared with Toyota. Now up top here we have an auto dimming mirror. We also have the optional digital camera rear view mirror, and you have HomeLink remotes built in. And then lastly here, I'll roll back the sunshade for the panoramic sunroof. Several of the trims come standard with a regular sunroof, but for $500 additional, you can get this panoramic one.
So let's go ahead and check out the rear seats of the Lexus NX. So when it comes to overall space, like I said, at the side of the vehicle, this is going to be on the smaller end for the segment. And that does translate to a little bit less legroom than some of the rivals. About 36 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom. Both of those are going to be on the smaller side, although it's still going to be perfectly...
I'm having trouble understanding you.
Although it's still going to be perfectly fine for an average size adult. Of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason I do that is so I can get a realistic knee room figure. Drew is 5'8", I'm 5'9", and we are looking at a little over 7 inches of knee space. My feet can easily slide up underneath of these seats. These seats are also super comfortable, just like the front ones, and they also have the ability to recline a decent distance. Now, if we fold down the center armrest, we have 2 cup holders inside. It's nicely padded. We have rear vents right here in the center section. No climate controls, so that is something that most of the competition does include. However, we have optioned on the heated back seats. That is an option here on the F Sport or included on some of your other models. And then you do have 2 USB ports and a 12-volt outlet down below. Now, if you look over at the door trim, it's going to be made of nice material, soft touch plastic on the upper part. We have some more of that trim piecing, leatherette all through the center section. And the door storage is going to be decently sized. As you can see, it can fit a water bottle and has a little bit of extra room to spare. Now, walking up to the tailgate, a power one is standard on all models. However, if you want the kick ability, that's going to be only included on your higher end examples. Now, let's go ahead and talk about overall cargo capacity for the NX. Now, this is going to be one of the smaller areas for this model. Only 22 cubic feet behind the second row of seats and 47 cubic feet with those seats folded down. Like I said, that is quite small for this segment of vehicle. It's going to really be the smallest option that you can get. And by the way, speaking of its competitive vehicles, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the luxury compact SUVs on the market and ranked them in individual categories, things like cargo capacity, interior luxury, powertrain choices, value at a certain price point. All of that is detailed for you so you can see the best options in each of those categories and make an informed buying decision. So definitely go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, the seats fold 60-40 split, as you can see, but that's not all, because over here on the right-hand side, you'll see some buttons. That's because we have the optional power folding second row of seats. So, as you can see, they'll fully power fold down with just the press of a button. That's pretty nice and keeps you from having to go up to the second row to fold the seats down. Now let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. Now, as far as overall cargo length, we're looking at 72 inches of length, so 6 feet. Behind Drew's 5'8" seating position. From behind the second row, about 37 inches of length. Opening is only 40 inches wide, so that's going to be on the narrow side. And we do have the cargo cover installed, but as far as height, we're looking at about 27 inches. That's because this is going to be one of, like I said, the smallest options in the segment when it comes to cargo capacity. Overall load-in height is 31 inches tall. If we lift up the cargo floor, here we go. There's a little bit of extra space. However, I do want to point out you do not have a spare tire on the Lexus NX, so that's a little bit of an interesting choice. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Lexus NX. In this test drive, we'll be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading and, of course, discussing real-world fuel economy. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
right, that's 60 miles per hour with the NX 350H. So 350H, of course, stands for hybrid. We talked about that a little bit on the outside with the spec dump. This is a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine paired with your electric hybrid componentry, and it makes 239 horsepower. And of course, for the first time, we now compare that with the F Sport handling, which is the trim level that gives you a little bit more of a sporty dynamic, but in terms of the overall acceleration, that's really not going to be the focus of that. I would certainly recommend going for the regular 350 model, which is faster to 60 miles an hour if you want kind of the sportiest performance.
Yeah, this is technically going to be the slowest Lexus NX that you can get in the lineup. 0 to 60 on this one is 7.2 seconds. Now, like Drew was saying, the standard option, the NX 350, has a 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder that makes 275 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. So in terms of horsepower and torque, it is going to have more than this 350H. And 0 to 60 is 6.6 seconds. So it's about a half second faster to 60 miles per hour. So not a drastic difference, which is why I personally think that, in my opinion, I take the fuel economy and maybe slightly reduced performance with this NX 350H. Now, they are also offering a plug-in hybrid as well. That's known as the 450H Plus, and that's going to actually be the fastest one, 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, and it has 302 horsepower after you add in all of its electric components.
And finally, with the powertrain discussion, the 250 model, that has been discontinued. So that was just a traditional 4-cylinder engine, no turbocharger, no hybrid or anything. That one had quite low power, only a little over 200 horsepower. So I'm glad that one has gone away. I think that really wasn't something that fit nicely into a luxury SUV. Speaking of, let's talk a little bit about the refinement. I will say this is a little bit of a noisy powertrain. That's one of the drawbacks of it, is when you kind of put your foot down, you can definitely hear plenty of kind of noise into the cabin. That's something that other Toyota hybrid systems can suffer from as well, but the handoff between electric and the gas engine is absolutely seamless. Now, as far as the transmission situation, we've got an eCVT for this model, or you get an 8-speed automatic with the traditional NX 350.
And as far as how power is routed to the ground, you do have the option of front-wheel drive on this 350H. That is new for 2026, and the rest of the models will come with standard all-wheel drive. But we're cruising down the highway portion, and I want to take a second to discuss ride quality. Now, like Drew said, we have the F Sport, so you might think that that would negatively impact your ride, but really, in a sense, Lexus F Sports are still very luxury-minded. They're more of a design group than overall rough riding experience. And over the past week, we certainly have experienced great ride quality. You can see that demonstrated as we go over those bridge abutments. The ride does a really great job of soaking those bumps up. The wheels are 20 inches, so that's the biggest wheel that you can get in the NX lineup, and it still is a very, very comfortable cabin, as you would expect from a Lexus product. I also want to point out that these seats are very comfortable.
There's our acceleration in the Sport S Plus mode. So that's the maximum hardcore drive mode. It gets the big kind of racing gauge cluster up there, but obviously it doesn't actually shift gears, so it's kind of just funny to watch it go up to like 6,000 and just sit there.
Now, I do want to point out the F Sport, it's designated as handling because it does add adaptive dampers as well. So, we've been riding around in the just standard eco comfort drive mode. Now that we're in the sport mode, you definitely can feel more of the bumps come into the cabin. So I do want to point out that does have a little bit of a dual character in that sense that you actually have adaptive dampers on this.
Yeah, it definitely firms it up a good amount. And as you can see, handling is pretty good. Definitely doesn't have much body roll, and the steering is light but responsive.
Let's toggle us back into the normal drive mode, and I'll put us on fan speed 1 so we can get our sound level reading and see how quiet this cabin is. 58.3 decibels is what we have settled in at as our sound level reading in the NX. We don't have to sit here and guess. We can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings and see how that compares to its competition. And that definitely does mean that it's not going to be as quiet as some of the other options that we've tested on the channel. Things like the Audi SQ5, BMW X3, and Genesis GV70 certainly are going to have quieter cabins than this. We've seen that model year after model year. This is going to be one of the louder options in the segment. But without further ado, we need to talk about our real-world experienced fuel economy in this NX 350h. That's, of course, the thing I would think I was most curious about going into this week is how good is it going to perform? Well, the EPA, I'll go ahead and read those numbers for you first, says that this vehicle is rated at 39 miles per gallon combined with all-wheel drive. It's 40 if you get front-wheel drive, which is a huge increase over the traditional NX 350 that's rated at 24 MPG. So you do the math, that's 15 miles a gallon better. Now, what did we get this week? Well, we've done both mixed city and highway driving across around 250 miles of driving, and our fuel economy was sitting at 35.3 MPG. So I do want to point out that is coming in a little bit less than what the EPA says. However, it has been pretty cold outside here in Kentucky, so that does negatively impact your fuel economy a little bit. But 35.3 is still a really great number to be experiencing in the real world. I have to say I'm very impressed with that. And one of the unique things about this model is that really none of its competition has a traditional hybrid that gets this type of fuel economy. You might have some mild hybrids with some of the Germans, but they're still not going to be anywhere close to this type of fuel economy, and I'm really happy to see that in the real world it's still performing really well.
Let's talk about today's Slam Dunk and Airball. I'll start with the Slam Dunk. I think that is the update with the packaging for 2026, combining the 350h hybrid with the F-Sport. I think for a lot of people, they really want this design. It's super popular in the Lexus lineup, and I know for myself personally, I would definitely want that F-Sport design. I wouldn't really even consider, honestly, the traditional design because I think it's that much of a step up to get the F-Sport, and I prefer this hybrid powertrain, so that combination really is going to, I think, help sell some more of these.
Yeah. Now on the Airball side, what we're going to say is just the packaging and the lack of standard features on this model. It's a little bit of an interesting product in the fact that almost everything is an upcharge, and it's not even just like one package, it's like individual options. So this particular model is sitting at over $61,000, and you're talking about the NX 350h starts at around 45 grand. So we have over $15,000 of options on this model, which is a lot. It's actually quite similar to how the Germans do their packaging. So just be aware that they kind of nickel and dime you for quite a lot of things, including things like the wireless phone charging pad. And do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it? Well, we've actually lived with the NX several times. It's not the newest product on the block, so really we're just going to like it the same as always. There's a lot to like about the hybrid system, and we've already hit the highlights on this product. Now let's talk pricing. One of the things that I really like about this NX 350h hybrid is the fact that it has the lowest price in the entire lineup. If you choose front-wheel drive, that is. $45,470 is your base price for this hybrid model. If you choose to have all-wheel drive, that's going to cost a little bit extra. And of course, this F-Sport is the top of the line hybrid model. $53,945 is your base price. Now this particular model, as you can see, we have the 2026 NX 350h, $54,200. We also have a slew of options. They kind of nickel and dime you on this car, honestly, so there's a ton of options. We also have a ton of accessories on this model, $1,295 destination, all told $61,655. If you're curious as to where this vehicle is built, it is made in Japan on this model. Now, if you're looking to buy a Lexus NX or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so we've got to talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Lexus NX's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 53.83% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 28.1%. Now, it's worth noting that is right above the industry average for all vehicle brands, and it is the #1 luxury brand when it comes to resale value, so it's far superior to some of its competition, such as Mercedes, Audi, and BMW.
Now, the same can also be said about reliability. We developed the Combined Reliability Index, which takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. When we take all that into account, Lexus comes out as the #1 luxury brand for reliability and is above average compared to all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability, our resale values, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase. Now, also important in that decision is the warranty. We have a good one for a luxury brand, 4-year 50,000-mile basic warranty, a 6-year 70,000-mile powertrain warranty. You do also get 2 complimentary service visits. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of this 2026 Lexus NX 350h Hybrid. If you enjoyed hearing our 7-day impressions on this model, we'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to tell the manufacturers that this type of content is important to you, and that's how we get more of these cars down here so we can test them out and give our real-world impressions. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.